Tonight we bring you the story of how David Beckham became a global phenomenon.
David Beckham, unstoppable.
I never really did well at school because
all I ever wanted to do was play football.
My manager kept saying, try and keep it under wraps. So we would meet in car parks, and that's not as seedy as it sounds.
classy. People kept on telling me, you need to make a life documentary at some point about your journey, about your career, about your life. I've never talked about these certain moments in my career and in my life, so I knew I wanted to make it. I knew that I wanted to bring it out on the 10th year of my retirement, and who knew whether I could make that happen or not, but luckily we could.
Ferguson admitted he had kicked the boot, accidentally striking Beckham.
And then I've gone like that, and then I've gone like that.
You went at him?
Yeah.
It's really entertaining when the circus comes to town, right? Unless you're in it.
It's all right, Buster, they can't get in the car.
To look back at, my career and my life over, over the last 25 years, especially of my career, was actually really nice. Because I'm not a person that sits and reflects on, past achievements and things like that. So this whole process has been like an emotional roller coaster.
If I told him how good he was, then he's got nothing to work at.
I remember saying to Bex, thank fuck you're on our team.
What do you do afterwards? Sink or swim?
There was something inside him, that determination.
Without a doubt, me getting out of London at that time and becoming a Manchester United player, in the north, surrounded by, unbelievable people, that for me, without doubt, helped me, have the success and have the career that I'd had. And having the discipline of Sir Alex Ferguson possibly was one of the biggest reasons why I was able to succeed.
It's a red card for David Beckham.
I don't think I've ever talked about it just because I can't. I wasn't eating, I wasn't sleeping. It took a toll on me that I never even knew myself.
I hadn't actually watched it. And I hadn't actually watched the interviews and what people said about me after. So that was actually probably the toughest part of the documentary, one of the toughest parts of the documentary to talk through. And it wasn't just stepping onto a football pitch, it was every time that I went out and in my car and people stopped me and spat at my window and, all of those things, and then walking into a restaurant knowing that everybody in there hates you. So I knew it was bad at the time, but going over that whole thing was quite a tough one.
David Beckham, BBC, do you have a second?
No, not to.
Go ahead. Beckham.
How do you feel?
You're going to slam up. Hey, you can have my picture.
I was surrounded by, obviously, amazing teammates. Sir Alex Ferguson, Manchester United fans was the biggest probably reason I got through what I got through at that time on the pitch, because they were unbelievable to me. Family members, but then back then there wasn't anyone turning around to me and saying, are you okay? Are you sure you're okay? Let's talk about it. Because 25 years ago, if I'd have turned around to my dad and said, Dad, I don't feel great, he'd have said, well, boy, just get on with it. So it was difficult, and I don't know how I got through it at times, but looking back on it, it makes me realise how tough it was and how difficult it was, and how much I kind of grew as a player and also as a person.
My life had become something different.
We were worried that he'd lose all what he'd worked for, because football come first, and all of a sudden it wasn't.
Okay, David. Big smile.
It definitely didn't change me.
Well, he changed. There's no doubt about that.
My first contract was when I was 18 or 19 years old with Brill Cream, and that was something that players weren't really doing at that time. And then obviously the tattoos, and then people start talking about the brand and things like that, but it happened very naturally. I then realised, okay, at some point I'm going to retire, and I'm going to want to keep busy because I like to work, I like to travel. So then we started planning for the future. And then obviously I had the opportunity to play in different countries, move to America, obviously have my own franchise and my own team, become an owner. So then once I finished playing, I knew that the moment I finished playing, I could then jump into the business.
We were drowning.
But he just kept going.
I don't give up easy.
It's Beckham. He's done it now.
I don't give up. I felt very vulnerable and alone.
Be honest.
I am being honest.
Who are you going to kick it like? I don't regret anything in my career. Do I wish things hadn't happened? Absolutely. Do I wish 98 hadn't happened? Absolutely. But after a few years of thinking that was a really tough time, I then started thinking, well, it must have happened for a reason. And then at the end of my career, I think, well, that's why it happened. It made me stronger as a person, as a player, as a human being, as a father, as a husband. And if that hadn't have happened, maybe I wouldn't have had the career that I had.
You haven't seen nothing yet.
There's more to come.
Maybe.